This is Highlights and Popular Topics with Natalie from Simsbury Community Television Studio. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Highlights and Popular Topics with Natalie. Simsbury Historical Society hosted a Build Your Own Scarecrow event on Thursday, September 26th. Everybody was welcome to participate. Cost $10, all materials were provided. Participants decorated their own scarecrow and were able to bring home to display. Topic in the news. Electoral College event was hosted by Simsbury Public Library on Thursday, October 5th, 2007. Guest speakers, two United States history scholars, discussed the history and the current state of the Electoral College of the United States. Your Own Scarecrow event was hosted by Simsbury Historical Society on September 23rd, 2017. Admission fee was $10. All materials were provided. Everyone was welcome. Participants built their own scarecrow and were able to bring it home. Event was free and open to public. All proceeds will benefit the Simsbury Historical Society.
Simsbury Historical Society. Build your own crow event for town residents, and everybody is welcome.
Hello, I'm Ann Hall, and I'm here today at the third annual Simsbury Scarecrow event. We have a beautiful sunny Saturday, and we are open until 3 o'clock this afternoon. We have had hundreds of people come by and build scarecrows to take home and enjoy for the fall season. We have had lots of help from people throughout our grounds who are here in their orange t-shirts. They're assisting people build their scarecrows, giving them directions on how to proceed, and the supplies for the scarecrows have all been donated by our neighbors in town. Some of them are clothes from the Second Chance shop, others from St. Mary's Granny's Attic. The hay is from some friends of mine, Sue and Steve Basil from Granby. And all of the help is, of course, volunteer. And we appreciate their being here and all of our happy families as well.
Hi, I'm Hugh Sinclair. I'm a volunteer treasurer here at the Simsbury Historical Society. Hi, yeah, we encourage everyone to come down. And if you can look on my left over here, there's a lot of clothes left to dress the scarecrows over here on the right. So we really look forward to seeing you come down. Thank you very much.
Topic in the news: the Electoral College. Event was hosted by the Simsbury Public Library on October 5, 2017. Two United States history scholars, Stephen McGrath and John Dasher, discussed the history and the current state of the electoral system of the United States. John Dasher received his Juris Doctor, MBA, and MA in teaching from Columbia University. Stephen McGregor earned his advanced degree from Trinity College and Columbia University. He is a professor of history at the Central Connecticut State University.
So our presenters tonight, who are in the front row here, are both history scholars. John Dasher, who will be speaking second, received his Juris Doctorate, MBA, and MA in teaching from Columbia University. He spent 25 years on Wall Street. The last dozen years of his career were spent teaching advanced placement U.S. history at public high schools in New Canaan and Fairfield, Connecticut. Stephen McGrath, with advanced degrees from Trinity College and Columbia University, is adjunct professor of history at Central Connecticut State University, and he's published and lectured extensively on issues related to American history. So please welcome first Stephen and then John.
I'd like you to imagine that you're back in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787. And so let's imagine that you go to what we now know as Independence Hall, and you convene with the 55 delegates from the various states, the summer of 1787, to revise the Articles of Confederation. And here you are in the summer in this hall. And in that hall, the windows are all closed because you don't want anybody on the outside to hear what you're saying. It's hot, it's sweaty, you're wearing your good wool clothing, and there is absolutely no deodorant. And let's talk specifically about the Electoral College. That strange little institution that has no parallel anywhere else in the democratic world. They came there to revise the Articles of Confederation. But as soon as Virginia introduced its plan, which was authored by Madison and introduced by Randolph, to have a bicameral legislature, everything was up for grabs. And the delegates knew that they weren't simply revising the Articles of Confederation, they're going to be scrapping them and coming up with something entirely new. Well, they had to work on Article 1 first, and that took a while to settle what was going to be the composition of this legislative branch. Because, of course, under the Articles of Confederation, you only had a legislative branch. You didn't have a president, you didn't have an executive, and you didn't have a judiciary. So they started out with what they were most comfortable with, which was the legislative branch. And they proceeded to create the United States Congress, somewhat as we know it today, with a House and Senate, lower house and an upper house. And then they came to the executive, the whole issue of the executive. And this issue was really fraught with a lot of danger. Since Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense in 1776, Americans had a strong aversion to monarchy. And so the whole idea of having a king or even a strong executive was something that rubbed many Americans the wrong way. In their initial constitutions that were written in 1776, 1777, all the governors were weak governors. They had weak powers of appointment. Generally, they had no veto power. Generally, they had no appointment power. They were figureheads, and the legislature was supreme. But after experimenting with that system for several years, it proved unworkable. And all the states who had written that kind of constitution rewrote their constitutions in the late 1770s, 1780s, following the massive prototype of the Massachusetts Constitution of 1780, which had 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The executive was a strong executive. It had the power of veto, it had the power of appointment, and it was also elected popularly by the citizens of the state. So this became the prototype for many other states. Now, here they were in Philadelphia. They still had an aversion to kingship, but they all knew some kind of executive was needed. And it needed to be at least as strong as the state governor, the state conventions, had made their governors in the late 1770s and through the 1780s. So they worked through the summer to nail down this executive branch and what it would be. They decided upon a president and a vice president. They had arguments over whether there ought to be one president or ought to be 2 or 3 executive committee. But they settled on one president with the vice president with the right of succession, and a number of things followed from that. Then the problem was, how do we choose the president? And they played around with that idea at first. A number of them, Madison included, favored electing the president by a popular vote. Some others were very concerned about that. They were concerned about that the people might have too much power. So there was fear of popular vote, and even Roger Sherman of Connecticut had a fear of the popular vote. The other option was to have the president elected by Congress. But then there was a lot of fear on the part of the popular vote people that Congress would become, the president would become too dependent upon Congress. That indeed, Congress would control the president like a puppet. And that they didn't want either. That would seem to bring back some of the problems that the states had experienced in the late 1770s. So they put the issue aside. They said, we'll come back to this later. And they dealt with Article 3, the judiciary, and some of the other articles. But the elephant in the room was the whole issue of electing the president. So at the end of the summer, on Friday, August 31st, they finally debated it and came up with a system. The Electoral College, as we know it, somewhat. So why? Historians have tried to explain this over the years, and they have said they've offered a couple of different explanations. Number one, that the Electoral College was meant to ensure that the small states were not overwhelmed by the big states. Already the United States Congress had been created with 2 senators from every state and representation in the House of Representatives based on population. So you have the Senate and the House created already. And the small states had their branch. That was the Senate. And then the question of electing the president, well, what are we going to do for the small states? If the small states don't have a larger say than simply population, they'll be overwhelmed by the big states. That's what historians used to think. Historians went to Madison's notes. Madison's kept extensive notes on the Constitutional Convention. And he recorded a speech that he made in August, where he made a distinction between an immediate election and a mediated election. An immediate election and a mediated election. And it was this. Electing a president by a popular vote would be an immediate election. Electing a president in a different way would be a mediated election. And he came up with the idea that a mediated election would be best. The question is why. He had supported democratically elected, popularly elected presidency. But apparently, some of his friends in the southern half of the United States got to it. And he said that the people at large were the fittest body to choose the federal executive. There was one difficulty, however, of a serious nature attending an immediate choice by the people. The right of suffrage was much more diffusive, meaning extensive, in the northern than in the southern states. And the latter, southern states, could have no influence in the election on the score of the Negroes. What he meant was this. And he didn't say so much and lay it out, but what he meant was this. In Pennsylvania, which had a population of about 400,000 at the time of the Constitutional Convention, somewhere around 80% of the adult white males had the right to vote. Why? Because they owned farms that met the property qualifications. So they had a large electorate in Pennsylvania. Hop skip over Maryland to Virginia, and you have a very different story, but this story was similar in South Carolina and Georgia. A little less similar in North Carolina. But Virginia was something of immediate concern to Madison and to the other Southerners. Number one, the population of Virginia was about 400,000. But there were well over 100,000 slaves. They were not voting. They would not be able to cast ballots. And no one favored extending the vote to the slaves. The northern states had larger voting populations, even though they didn't necessarily have larger populations, they had larger voting populations, and they would permanently outvote the southern states. And what were the southern states concerned about? The big elephant in the room was slavery. Or, as the founders chose to put it in the Constitution, persons bound to service. You never mentioned slavery. Let's go back to Pierce Butler. So what did Pierce Butler come up with? He came up with a system whereby these electors would be chosen in each of the states according to the number of senators and representatives in each state. So Connecticut would have 5, 2 representatives, 2 senators. So the South, with its slave population and small number of voters, got a wildly disproportionate share of power in electing the president through the Electoral College. Of course, this was Pierce Butler from South Carolina who designed the system. Now, Virginia was the big winner here, all right? Virginia in the first United States Congress had 3 more House seats than Pennsylvania. Even though Pennsylvania had the same population, and even though Virginia had far fewer voters, the representation of Congress was based upon population, not voters. And so Virginia had this large population, basically equal to Pennsylvania's. But Virginia got 3 more House seats than Pennsylvania did in the Congress of 1788. So you can see how this worked to the advantage of the South. Why did northern states accept it? Because the signals were very clear, especially from South Carolina, that if all these concessions were not accepted, the South wouldn't join the Union. And the future of America would be very, very precarious indeed. So, they accepted the compromises and the Electoral College worked. But here's the problem. The founders never anticipated the creation of political parties. And in the early 1790s, 2 political parties arose, disputing, by and large, the power and scope of the federal government. And these 2 political parties battled it out through the 1790s. And in 1796, the Electoral College produced John Adams as president and Thomas Jefferson as vice president. The question is, what to do about the Electoral College? And this was solved by the 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which provides that the president and vice president are elected together on one ballot. But we still have the Electoral College, and there is, at least in theory, a possibility, however remote, that the candidate who loses the popular vote will actually win the electoral vote. I mean, you know that doesn't happen, right? No. Okay, so John's going to tell you how, 4 times in our history, this has happened, and in the last 20 years, twice. So I'm going to turn it over to John. John's going to talk, and then we'll take questions afterwards, okay?
And I'm going to talk about 5 elections, the 5 times that the person who won the most popular votes did not win the presidency because they did not secure a majority in the Electoral College. The most recent one, of course, is 2016. And then I'm going to talk about the prospects for altering the Electoral College system. Just so I understand my audience here, does anybody have a strong bias that the electoral system, college system, is a bad system? And we have any defenders? Okay, good.
Can I just say, guess where I'm from?
Mississippi.
South Carolina?
The Midwest.
Okay, good. So am I. Okay, let's just go back. I'm going to I pull out my little time machine here. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to take you back to 2016 during the election season. We'll say it's Super Tuesday in 2016. As we know what happened there, Donald Trump swept away with the Republican nomination and Hillary swept with the Democratic nomination. The campaign proceeded, and now we're going to change the facts. Rather than what happened, we're going to talk about what everybody expected to happen. And I think it's fair to say that everybody expected the campaign to be rough, that there'd be debates, that Donald Trump would bomb in the debates, that he'd alienate a lot of people, and the fact is that in my time machine, he doesn't even show up for the 3rd debate. At that point, he has alienated women, blacks, Hispanics, immigrants. We go into election day, and as everybody expected, Hillary wins. Hillary wins in a landslide. And not only that, the Democrats sweep both the House and the Senate. Now, the Republican Party is devastated. Almost more of it. Then even more galling, this is what happens. Hillary's the president. She is a fabulous president. The economy just surges. The stock market goes to 40,000. There's peace in the Middle East. The North Koreans give up the bomb. Iran makes peace with Saudi Arabia. Everything is fabulous. She runs for re-election, She runs for re-election unopposed. Unopposed. She wins the Electoral College 538-0. He said, no. One faithless elector says, I cannot vote for you, Hillary. I'm going to cast my ballot for John Kerry. Because only George Washington deserves the right to win the Electoral College unanimously. Hillary goes on and has another administration, second administration, very successful. One of the things that happens that's unfortunate is Chuck Schumer racing to get in front of another set of microphones on the Capitol steps, trips, falls, cracks his head open, dies. But Chelsea Clinton is appointed to a Senate seat. So now we get to 2024. 2024, there's only one party. It's the Democratic Party. But there are factions in the Democratic Party. Hillary succeeded in papering over those factions, but in 2024, 4 people decide they want to run for president, and they all forswear the nominating convention process. I want to go back. This is the popular vote. All right. Mark Zuckerberg gets 20%. Chelsea finishes here. She gets 30%. Ted Cruz gets 27%. And Mark Zuckerberg only has 23%. But that doesn't matter. What matters is their electoral votes. And their electoral college vote, Mark Zuckerberg had 140. He finishes second. Chelsea had the most, 145. Marco Rubio only had 130. And Ted Cruz had 123. Now, the way this 12th Amendment works is that once you take the electoral votes, since nobody gets a majority of the electoral college, the magic 270, it goes to the House of Representatives. But it also provides...
Coming up, Saturday, November 25th, Simsbury Celebrates will take place in the center of the town. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.